Bro spent 5 years speedrunning a dead impossible game while his girlfriend yanked him out of her life for being a broke bum. But joke's on her, made the apocalypse just drag those brutal mechanics straight into reality. While the normies are screaming and running from nightmare fuel, our guy sinks his physical body to his broken god-tier avatar. A giant bug monster dives for food, but instead finds a fresh piece of modern art that looks like the perfect snack. His blade swings just a little too far, turning the insect's prey into a stunning canvas before he catches it. Yeah, I'm warming up right as you get your first 13 secrets in full force. Smash into that blazing hell of a desert where the locals are sweating buckets screaming for help while battling their own grumpy kaiju. The explosion from that single shot is shaking the whole city and makes me feel like I'm fighting my own destruction. The beast is literally exhausted, trying to keep up with the player inside their mind. His heart feels like it's spinning out of control, and breathing is like inhaling broken glass. He can't tell if that blood or sweat is dripping off him, but his senses are screaming that this pain is way too high definition for a PC game. A sudden flood of text lights up his eyes, and he sees it all at once. The hidden traits are sparking fire in the heart of Iron-Blooded Lord, making him a true weapon master with unmatched skill. He stood surrounded by an army and suddenly knew the worst was about to happen as he took that fatal blow. You clicked save and slid off the couch as the screen flickered gray. Absolutely roasted the developers for throwing away a terrible game design. He's actually named Park, and he seems like the kind of person who should be a wise man, yet he's doing terribly right now. He had stormed out of work last month, leaving the house to rot with a greedy gamer inside who hates being human. He's been obsessing over that game for 5 years now. The login screen for Pangaea still flexed that old slogan promising to grant one wish to anyone who cleared it, just as bait had hooked the pro players at first. But now the difficulty was so toxic, everyone raged and quit, leaving Park standing alone in a dead server like a ghost. The server was drowning in chaos when his friends cried for everything they lost: gear, one-tap bosses, and teammates turning on each other, while their own names got flagged as total renenders, meaning every single player died at the same time. The Park believes developers are mindless trolls who constructed a hellish torture chamber, so no one deserves to suffer any more than they already have. He's down 5 years on grinding and has only won 8 of his 15 best legendary items, leaving him utterly empty. A cheerful system window popped up, deleting you instantly, but granting you an epic 1.6 million soul points to upgrade your old build with new skills. Park noticed his gold was only 10,000 points, which meant he wasn't actually that rich. Instead, he had plenty of money for a life full of free-to-play games and could easily upgrade every skill tree. Despite feeling very down, he usually used magic as his main ability to keep things moving forward. He thought he'd never win against that junk game again. So instead of quitting immediately, he decided to play around with the character generator for a while longer before finally cutting off his own account entirely. It feels like the most cruel and violent memory from 3 months back, which makes this nihilism feel heavier than any other feeling. His girlfriend dropped the hammer on him while he tried to keep a corporate job at a cafe, leaving him shaking from pure spite. Fueled by that bitterness, Park quit everything and became a hermit, muttering in frustration as he hammered a random button on his screen until a jackpot appeared. A hidden message flashed. "Congrats. You are invited to Pangaea," shattering the room's quiet air and launching a demonic voice inside his mind. Park grabbed his head while the screen flashed a glowing red warning, then passed out completely before waking up face first in a blazing hot desert. Crack! The whip snapped and slammed into his back as a slaver barked aggressively, scaring the beast while a dragon growled in the background, ready to eat him if he slipped away. The shaking of the park made him realize his mistake. He had been pushed hard into the game instead of playing safe. The slaver breaks free from the crushing weight of his chain and leaps into an endless line of miserable slaves staring up at the high dragon, who looks like a pile of broken metal and raw nightmare fuel. "Time for the check," he calls out as he scrambles to join the fray. He pulls up his status window and looks at this build. It's absolutely cracked. All those stats, strength, stamina, agility, intelligence, and magic, are sitting right there in an impossible level 12, way past the game's usual hard cap of 10. His talent tree is endless and maxed out in every skill from high-leveled swordsmanship to elemental magic, archery, and leadership skills alike. The villain's mind was racing as he tried to hide the true weight of his abilities. Weapon masters, giants with massive resistance, gluttonous excess, and powerful sages. All while a sudden alarm flashed across the battlefield, screaming for him to collapse at 6.12% or die. Oh my god, the wall isn't a wall. It's breaking apart right before anyone sees what happens. When the first big glitch hits at 10%, that line between the world outside and the game completely crumbles away for real. The desert didn't explode before he could even close his eyes and think about being a god. A deafening roar erupted as the Desert Queen unleashed her army, shattering every agreement they'd made while simultaneously launching a devastating surprise attack on their allies. Suddenly, our little boy sees a girl strutting around a huge monster and freezes in his mind for an instant before snapping to action. Oh my gosh, that's a princess. Boom! A main quest window aggressively pops up with one simple objective. Survive the nightmare twist, or you'll die permanently, erasing your soul from both the game and the real world as a torrential storm of arrows lashes down on those standing right next to you. The sudden chill froze him completely, making him feel terrified for a second before his newfound power, the iron-blooded heart of the Lord, kick into full operation. That weak magic instantly froze him in place, turning the shaking fear into something unnaturally cold and steady. He froze in place, realizing that being frozen was merely an invitation to the grave, so he swung wildly toward his broken weapon. The enemy soldier charged hard at his brother, who slipped past without getting hit by the blast, and then turned the attacker on their side like a tiny human skyver. As the enemy finally strikes the sand, the world goes silent. A mysterious weapon master jumps into the air and screams at full blast. Another warrior laughs as he grabs his spears and casually slices another guy in half, but the blade seems to be his own arm. As he moves through an attack, the gun is projected into a neon light map that shows where the sword will cut. Suddenly, a loud shriek breaks free from the silence around them. The raiders were already scattered and their weapons out of place, as people stared in shock at that single man who was still holding his weapon tight, wondering exactly what he did to get so close to them. He's dodging the notification fire while running through levels like an expert, turning his sword and spear into 5-star weapons that instantly turn 6 when the max limit hits. Now that 10 is the ceiling for champions. He's just flexing his legendary knight skills to dodge a swarm of 50 monsters before realizing this solo run isn't the one he planned to do. Cut to the throne room, where the queen sits in her chair, surrounded by her royal guards. The scouts burst out of the cave, screaming about what they found. A desert expedition that was completely useless for their goals. The queen turns to the snake princess, demanding immediate action. If a single word gets said that they stayed out of town, the central continent would blame them directly for their failure. She orders the princess to march straight into the Coltsman Desert, wipe everyone clean, and destroy all proof of what happened there. She tells him to do that, so he can finally lift the princess's curse. The beautiful princess suddenly grabs the mysterious package right away. In a wild desert where snakes are so busy killing monsters, one stubborn boy, named our minion, was trying to stop him from dying again, even as the boss music began to play. The princess lands, clearing the way, while our boy's eyes flash with a quick scan of her stats. Isabella Vanderson, an 8-year-old with the power of a hardened demon who has been blasted into a dangerous zone for years. In that tough level 1 setting, a monster that's already a top-tier boss is like a tough level raid boss needing to be beaten down to the ground. She fought the person in front of her and lost right away, which meant they won for sure. She steps forward, handing him the perfect tools for his move so he can unleash that deadly power instantly. Our little gamer faced an urgent threat and realized right away that the only way to survive was to hack into something broken. He flashed a quick, grinning smile, and then quietly asked if she wanted to remove the queen's curse right about now. You'll never get through that fight if she slams the brakes on your attack right away. He claimed he was a savior, whispering that she could finally find herself on her own after all those years. The princess is shaking visibly. A frightened boy is trapped inside a giant wall of smoke and shouting in the dark as he tries to escape. The story begins when a player reaches the final floor of the game, where the rules demand they break through to reach the 10th level cap. That's when the truth comes out. Saints aren't just NPCs. They're game mechanics themselves that force players to overcome the curse before hitting that last wall. And guess who knows exactly why this character was built? It turns out the creator is right behind them, ready to fix whatever needs fixing. Years after she left behind him at the very last moment, he dropped from the sky to save her, but then she asked for his name before he could finish the sentence. The system officially locks the door shut behind you, so no one can enter. A giant golden alert flashed on the screen while she pulled out her weapon, telling him to stop firing because he's now treated as a special guest with his whole team ready for what's coming next. The universe is exploding with stars, yet his loot just keeps climbing because fortune and battle are so much more exciting than they seem. He finally grabs a legendary upgrade from his pocket and saves a piece of the broken golden rule for later, while finding a high dragon soul and using Saint Michaela's sword to break the sand. His character hits the floor gassed with 220 points right now, ready to crack open that Grand Hall of Fame. The screen jumps straight into pure luxury. Our guys are soaking up a 5-star bath while obsessing over his new gear. Suddenly, the High Dragon Soul summons a level 5 beast, but Mikila's sword is completely broken. A cheat code for early games needs 20 strength to unlock it. Then he inspects a golden rule fragment that drops a cryptic hint about syncing reality in the game for 24 hours, but his chill session gets wiped out by 3 maids marching in, ready to scrub him down. He hesitates in the doorway and starts stuttering, but he's already pulling his shoes off to ask for help. Isabella's maids have just kicked him under the bus because they think he's sweating bullets. So, stepping into Zen mode, he forces himself to stay completely still and ignore them all by being utterly ice cold. A bright red light flares suddenly across the room as the walls begin to dissolve into reality at a speed that makes your body shake, with the pressure dropping until you find yourself floating above the floor instead of standing on it. He hesitated for a split second before snapping his fingers and pulling up the Hall of Fame rankings to see where he stood in history. The air was instantly frozen as he stood beneath the absolute crushing weight of his title, standing just inches from a rival named Gracia, whose face seemed to hold every memory of that past era, and a third member, Mint Choco, who tasted exactly like the very first hit they ever made. Realizing he was dragged into a nightmare, too, he spotted the Holy Grail, the log-out button, which he ignored because ignoring it made his avatar truly defenseless. So he struck firm ground and moved on. He flicked his thumb at the door, pulling the crew away and letting the night take over to talk to the stars. When one hesitates, citing the princess's orders, he drops a massive bluff and misses that cosmic meeting, causing his saintly powers to vanish and doom their boss's salvation. Terrified, the maid quickly bowed off as our boy sighed, wishing a savage goodbye to that vile trash tier before smashing the log-out button. His eyes snapped open in his real-world bedroom, and suddenly the horror show wasn't over all the same way. Oh, look outside. The city seems to be burning with a fire of smoke and chaos, while monsters slide effortlessly through Main Street. A phone battery explodes like a bomb, while an unknown shadow rages through the streets of Bisusen. He shook his head like a leaf and pushed through the doorway to catch a look of absolute terror in that monstrous eye staring directly at him. He dived straight back into the house, completely lost in a mental battle about why monsters in his neighborhood are launching an invasion. A tiny bit of shiny metal shatters against his palm in a sudden rush of panic. My friend woke up gaslighted by a game with nothing but a sleepy nap and a deserted desert landscape. As the door clicks shut, he thinks the world ends before he even sees the shiny box hanging on his desk. Panic spiked right as he grabbed the book and felt sure it was dead forever. Desperate, he checked his computer and immediately found the site gone. What was left behind was just that dreaded 404 error message on a cold screen. The silence held a heavy weight as he stared at the screen, only to find that the very moment of total calm was suddenly shattered by sudden, terrifying silence. He peeks out from behind the blinds and sees a real monster transforming its entire room into a buffet full of delicious food. Cops are screaming into their radios when they suddenly hear the sound of a car coming from nowhere. His phone's loud warning system proves that our world has officially turned into a digital zombie apocalypse. The line that once kept us apart from the game has been erased. He knew fighting kaijus wouldn't work with a keyboard, so he jumped from his chair and pulled out the golden dragon soul and the shattered Mikila's blade. You're completely lost figuring out what to do with your hand because the mouse won't let you double-click anything. A mysterious window flickers across the screen, promising that the golden broken rules will turn reality into a 24-hour test for you. With beasts wandering the city, he crashes into the air and instantly merges his physical form with Randolph's virtual avatar. On the street littered with blood, a mother sprints toward the scene, holding on tight for her tiny child. A towering skyscraper shattered by a massive slab of concrete, sending falling debris toward the ground where young children were trying desperately to flee. The mother rushed her own head first and slammed them back into safe arms as she took the fatal blow herself. Horrified by what happened, a woman jumped out of bed and shouted for help as she died. A fierce woman vows to shield her young child from a monstrous creature that bites her like a living snake. Yet when she realizes she can no longer stop the beast, the entire group collapses in shock before they even know what's happening. He swung casually and turned the beast into sleek modern art. She gasps in horror as the monster leaps from the shadows and lunges at her. But she doesn't flinch just to see it happen. His flashy new boss isn't about making enemies fight back. Instead, he lets go of his own hand and vanishes into nothingness while they're still staring at his terrifying form. He leaned down like a king on his dragon and told the woman, "Get on your feet," while she struggled against the urge to scream as her son ran through the forest with wet tissue paper in his hand, chasing away all the scary monsters behind him. The crowd stares blankly at the floor as their teeth grind in silent, unnatural silence. The room fell silent as I watched the lights flicker out and sink across every single building on Earth, turning into a complete digital wipe of our entire society before anyone could even blink. A sudden explosion sends cracked-out warriors crashing down the street, slicing through hardened armor as if they were tearing at wet tissue paper to claim the spotlight. He laughs maniacally at how the game's evil gods keep ignoring him, while he watches a stranger burn away his own rules right on the stream, turning everyone into a pile of ash before taking another bite. The map is already crumbling as Massacre sinks into the ruins, staring at a stranger who holds more pieces of the dead world than anyone else. He raises his hand to reveal his list of survivors, locking onto the hero standing at the top, ready for battle in this new, broken era where nothing matters but what remains. Randolph was sprawled out like a heavy stone at the top of a steep cliff. Massacre sees the gamer tag happen in an instant, but Randolph, still a Phantom tier legend, must finally make it all the way to the Demon Realm's grand expedition when he only has one crazy try left to push it all the way to that final boss's doorstep before wiping. Randolph had to calculate the numbers perfectly. He inherited everything his main account gave him, turning into an unstoppable force of chaos. In that game server, he felt like a prisoner in a luxury desert spa, while working long hours to connect hidden dots and scare monsters out of reality. Everyone laughed at his past mistakes because the situation was so exciting now. He was stabbed hard by his own team during that final big expedition stretch, and the game level crashed right out of control. He knows this isn't a glitch. It's a feature because other summon players are actively hacking his run. Desperate to keep the game going, he sees himself as the richest player in existence and decides to hide offline while trying to power level up before time runs out. The King of Kings finally turns around and runs toward the Snake Princess in a frantic hurry. She waits eagerly to see if he has finally finished talking to the stars. The boy laughs and lifts the curls in a way that shows he knows exactly how to handle the moment without looking foolish. She has to sneak your way into that holy place right now, because she can't let you go home yet. Isabella stares at him with eyes wide like she was about to demand his heart out for being such an idiot, while he just laughs it off because the stars actually demanded he take a class change and hide inside that temple for the second time. The screen buzzes with a bright yellow ping, signaling that your system has officially requested you to grab your class and finish this exciting quest. The moonlight slams down on the ancient tower as the Snake Princess instantly transforms into an elite assassin, slashing through the stone defenses with terrifying speed before even getting a good look at the guards. Watching her transform elite fighters into cool modern pieces of art, our MC mentally wiped the sweat from his brow and thanked the gaming gods that she was on his team. He paused in time, watching her face as if his own mind were glitching on standby. Completely stunned by what she said, he needed to rush out before anyone caught him sneaking into the locked fortress. But this guy had an insistent plan. He knew about the upcoming class change quest and was ready to strike at a hidden star class that would be right under his nose. He smiled as he realized that among all the other players in the game, he was the one with the absolute most precise location on the map. He laughed so hard he was actually blowing up his own face, but at the very least, he needed this extra star to make sure my boss isn't under any stress about missing out on a VIP party. Then came a brutal ultimatum. Take this single ticket out of this sandbox or get caught in the act on the outside and smear your brother across the pavement inside. The stone coldness pressed against his face while he shook violently in his boots, knowing exactly what would happen if she caught that lie. Our boy announced, "We're here," pointing to a creepy set of stairs plunging underground. "Welcome to the holy ground." They descended and saw his hut explode with notifications. Then another one appeared saying, "Welcome to the hidden sanctuary," while the system cheered for a side quest but screamed a red warning that he was way below recommended level 8. Dark magic seems to breathe right through him, making the air feel almost poisonous, yet his giant's natural defense keeps the poison at bay like a personal force field. Though a typical noob would have melted away in seconds, with Princess tanking protecting him, he feels truly godlike. The player ducks to avoid a swarm of invisible invaders, while a wicked grin spreads across his face as he stands ready for the final mission in the dark. The princess smiles confidently, then shuts down the moment with a hand on her shoulder before announcing she made the wrong way. She frowns sharply while pointing at the bridge ahead, knowing it's a trap designed to flush intruders into the drain. He smirks teasingly, mocking the lethal assassin that is already there. She doesn't throw up a defensive wall to stop him immediately. She doesn't even know what fear spells. She is vibrating with panic, prompting a skeptical look from him, but she insists on backing off hard while blaming a phantom leg cramp and demanding they scout a safer detour. We slipped on the floor, crouching as our guy offered us a piggyback ride. She screamed with pure offense, demanding if he had a death wish before we even got there. He quickly revealed that totally real leg injury and the ticking clock at his feet. Soon, when they found those guards sliced into confetti, the Queen's trackers were hunting them down in the morning light. She kept pulling the weight of him so hard, he couldn't hold back his breaths while she stopped feeling those scary waves before they even hit her chest. He stumbled forward so hard she felt like her skin was tearing. Then he screamed and let go of her while they jumped from the cliff into nothingness to avoid the mutations that would kill them both. His sneakers slide across the invisible staircase that seems to float up into the air. She was completely stunned as she watched them casually slip through the air, wondering exactly how a level 2 scrum knows about such an impossible loophole they never thought they were supposed to see. Plus, he's chill out, not even shivering a drop of sweat in that area where the mana pools are boiling hot and acidic. Our little boy laughs while pretending to roast her dead sister with that smirk. She snapped at him to snap back and stop the world from spinning inside her. The coolness he feels when a friend hangs out doesn't come from fighting for glory or being tough, but from that quiet comfort in knowing someone is with him. She slammed his arm down on the table and smiled when he answered that he'd seen you before. They finally land in a stunning meadow of neon flowers behind a stealth barrier, and our boy spots the next boss fight before a giant golem with a bright red core appears. Knowing this high-tier mob could send its low-level avatar to respawn instantly, he checks if her leg cramps are miraculously cured one last time before barking at him to close off his trap and spring into action. A tough guy sees a girl casually demolishing that giant beast piece by piece in Lego style. And while he didn't actually design her build back then, his awe is pure as she takes everything apart with effortless ease. He felt the air ripple with terror as a massive shadow of an 8-level killer surged forward and began trying to hurt himself. The system happily waves its hand, pushing that rare golden maker through him while counting down his party's XP. Even though that top-tier job seems broken up right now, his boy suddenly loses all confidence and starts chasing the real prize instead. Before the purple fog swallows them, a red alert screams the arrival of an ancient king, and our boy immediately recognizes the star bouncer who just woke up to stop the trouble. The giant nightmare creature, shaped like a huge snake, slides right into the light. It rained down to the ground like 1,000 panicked little warnings about your son being too small for Class 10. The Guardian's pressure was crushing on him, while the princess stared at him with a look of disbelief about losing her marbles, demanding to know if he expected to solo that giant monster before it could even attack. Our boy waved his hand dismissively, confidently stating that despite looking like a horror movie prop, the creature was actually chill and never attacked first. The very moment he felt his guard firing, the cosmic floor groaned and let go of everything else while she screamed into the darkness, screaming that this was too much for anything to handle. She dodges, rolling into a panic moment, yet her bewildered boy asks why his supposed helpful guide is suddenly turning violent. The sky above them bleeds with the sound of a mighty guard charging and his opponent's terrified hands clutched tight for survival. The princess screamed, and she was sure she was completely out of luck for anyone else. She screamed so hard her eyes flew wide, realizing her mistake as the snake snatched away the last shard of the guardian golem and threw back a swing that sent the creature flying into the shadows while she screamed for the boy to stop watching and save him. He watched the chaotic scene, and suddenly his heart hammered against his chest like a trapped bird, making him feel completely overwhelmed by the sudden silence that followed. He kept playing until the end of the game because that was why he made the most money. Since the guy was essentially a god, the guard stepped up and set up a big red carpet for everyone. Now that he's been turned into a squishy noob, the snake has officially gone back to business as usual. She's about to collapse into a heap of broken bones after a bad spell turns her into snake snacks, but she just barely dodges it before falling completely off the edge of reality. As the fatal blow hits, our boy snaps his fingers and orders Drummit to heal instantly. The scary monster instantly stops moving while he throws a bombshell at it. The villain's leader returns to the battlefield, but the beast paused before snapping up like a hungry monster, screaming that Wilhelm was a superhuman legend worthy of a ride-or-die loyalty who just had a permanent dirt nap in the demon realm. The Guardian's jaws opened wide to turn our boy into a crunchy, mid-afternoon snack. The boy didn't even duck when the monster demanded the contract. Instead, he calmly told it to keep her promise, causing the scary creature to freeze up, clearly realizing what a rogue human NPC had said. Our boy suddenly throws up his hand in an excited, high-fiving motion. The deep lore tells us that whoever grabs a star instantly becomes its mountain landlord, while the Guardian is magically bound by just your own will. You can't break the deal if someone dies first. They'll kill you anyway, So the game ends instantly and the curse comes on. Since the physics are still running, his wiki-level knowledge becomes our boy's ultimate armor. The Guardian demands to know what kind of freak our boy is, while he roasts him with swagger on full strength and orders a giant to Uber him all the way to the stars, declaring that this artifact will be judge, jury, and executioner. The Guardian scoffs, warning him that the star roast scrubs will instantly turn his worthless worm into a pile of ash. A chill stone sets in on us as our young boy snaps at the monster, demanding to know why it seems so frightened before it even swipes a finger across the screen, hinting that maybe this is really what makes him a new boss. The Guardian smiles as he agrees to make the guy get a VIP escort right there at the altar. Dealing with that guy who knows exactly what's up is going to be super awkward. So, the monster lets the stars handle that hard, cleaning job. They rush to the altar and watch the princess stare down at her feet while a neon skull rests on the pedestal. Our boy mentally explains that this isn't just bone. It's the face of the goddess Leia, whose divinity has been split into 32 star batteries to power future generations. The man rushes forward, grabbing a heavy iron skull with a trembling hand as he prepares to unleash his next move. Boom! As the sky erupted with a wall of blazing orange and black smoke, he was swept completely away by the falling fire. The terrified princess yells as her protector laughs, declaring that his greedy little bug was cooked to perfection just for doing so much damage. And suddenly the fog vanishes. Our boy stands alone by the fire with zero burns to his skin, letting out a silent sigh of relief as he watches her struggle for air. The stars have a firewall that burns down anyone who tries to slip through and hit the boss fight hard enough to cause chaos. He stood tall over the system, winning the secret war on paper while holding his breath for the real fight to begin next week. The guy thinks he's got a secret tip, but then his phone buzzes and he realizes the real thing is his own broken skill level. The big payoff isn't just about the numbers. When that magic system goes wild, he turns all his mana into powerful stars to unlock those incredible new abilities. He officially bags the hidden class star, a broken resource that scales his power exponentially because every one counts. The magic spark from the artifact flickers onto his chest, and his eyes light up as he looks at Isabella. She waits for him to finish his story about the past, while he tries to figure out what she's doing today. She's still shaking off that last flash of the lights, and decides to leave the desert behind to go home with her family instead. A young boy reaches out and grabs the girl's hand with a golden ticket in his palm. But as he tries to pull the heavy weight away from her face, something terrible snaps back onto the table underneath him. The girl had to work hard for him for a full year right after they went missing. A pause hangs in the air as her royal pride clashes violently against a desperate pull. His eyes lock on hers, as if to say, "I'm not your mom," but instead a tough guy holding his gun ready with just 100% confidence. A moment of silence follows. Then she finally lets go of her pride and bows low, accepting everything he holds inside him. We watched our son shout at his smart game while the whole family cheered loudly. He quickly changed course and pointed out the massive Guardian, casually telling them that because he owns the key to the star, the organization is now in a different league after all. The loud voice commands a clumsy guy to push his hands into the mud. He felt the screen scream as he accidentally deleted the system's instructions, sending a huge pop-up that crushed the math problems for his class, while the computer scored an insane 20-30 points just to win his spot on the history of people like him. The stars of fortune and adventure are currently dancing with fire, boosting his treasure box while massive boss-level enemies chase him relentlessly to slow down his wild upgrades. Meanwhile, at the Desert Queen's headquarters, a scout was rushing to tell her that Isabella had slipped through a secure wall while carrying a captured slave behind him. The curious queen ordered her goons to hunt them down and drag them back. Meanwhile, 3 gamers were grabbing coffee while aggressively gossiping about their leaderboards. One guy believes that Randolph plays the legendary Ghost player Phantom. Snagging an absurdly high score demands elite brain power. So the guy in black says Phantom's 5-year absence will finally shake the internet, while the red-clad hunter begs to chase him before the blonde girl points out they've been hunting that ghost for years with zero luck. Since Phantom was just a shadow until the game glitched back into reality, the strategist plans to set up an auction house as a honeypot to lure him out, where veterans list god-tier loot for pennies. He jumped the buyers with invisible tracking spells locked onto their gears, so he could hold them tight when they finally collected. The guy in the red shirt seriously doubts that Phantom's idiotic luck even allows him to enter this kind of basic setup. The blonde girl is exploding into action, completely wild with energy and fire in her eyes, as she declares that the guy named Phantom is the ultimate unprovoked chaos force ready to grab everything for a moment before shoving out all of the bait just so he can take it. She's demanding they draft him right away. He felt so completely out of place that he was convinced he might be a loaded CEO or a Nepo baby, just like anyone else. and his mind was fully cooked to fit that mold. The Hall of Fame team refreshed their class acquisition quest for the day, and our boy was completely crushing it at first place with a massive 230-point haul, leaving Grazia and Mako to taste that deliciously dusty victory on the ground. There's a big massacre happening right now, and nobody knows why everyone else can't even see it. Only the top 2 players are allowed into the secret section because they're getting special VIP treatment. But Massacre isn't about a dull life. He chooses violence to decide who gets into his system, so he'll hunt down anyone above him and take their places by just killing them in real time. Back in those digital dunes, a notification came through as our boy had finally cracked the code and reached 100% on his secret sanctuary. He was declared the server's first conqueror for his masterful achievement. His epic tier teleport book let him fly anywhere he wanted to go. As he pulled up his royal cargo and began to wail in coordinate gibberish, the little princess vanished into thin air, completely lost. He officially reached the 3rd tier of his game. His stats jumped from low numbers to soaring above 300s because he inherited a powerful family legacy with a huge power-up buff. The grind feels like it's going to explode into 1,000,000 minutes for those cap-bound stats, but he lets himself forget why it matters at all. He just bagged 2 game-breaking items, including a shadow cloak that gave him full-on invisibility. Suddenly, as the giant guardian Dramit's roar begins to shake the ground, the victory lap gets cut short because his voice spits out intruders breaking the perimeter. It turns out Isabella just guessed that the Queen's team is actually coming soon. She realized she had been way too polite for the group of giants, and immediately asked if there was a better team to team up with that big snake in order to help her out. His little boy is playing with such a smart toy. He casually dumped every bit of his anger straight into the Guardian's face, leaving that giant animal gasping for breath like a terrified bear. As its new master booked it the old way, they bailed and left the trackers to face the raid boss alone. Isabella questioned whether staying was right after she saw the giant meat shield. Our boy tells us it might just be a scout team, and now the main army is coming for him. Isabella goes on the spot, turning salty because she thinks he's ditching the Guardian since he's dead weight. Our boy checks her, but then drama hits. Zone locked to the sanctuary, so they're truly alone with each other. That single thing that catches them off guard? Just the warp gate right at the end of the map. Isabella finally gets off the roller coaster ride after a divine star gift wipes away her old curse, clearing her way into the next adventure with no more worries. The only massive glitch in the world. The gate needs an hour to open. Isabella stands frozen as the vast, endless desert stretches out around her, offering nothing but an absolute zero protection from the wind. Our little boy gently whispers, Dramit is shopping for those windows, and I desperately need to talk to the stars, while checking how things actually are right now. He asked gently why she would let a man be alone when his heart was breaking, so she could swear on her own life to keep him safe. We used a system hint so he could safely log out, but then our boy smashed the button and woke up in the bathtub in a panic. His mind was spinning fast because he tried so hard to be a god-tier character while his actual body was still barely human. He glanced at his phone and found nothing wrong with him. So the terrifying monster invasion hasn't yet completely ripped through our everyday world. But while his timer's clock strikes a countdown and dozens of other summoner players are chasing him, he decides to head straight into the woods with no backup plan. She hangs up in a panic while he rolls up to a coffee shop, realizing she's trying to compare that broken wallet to the rich guy next door. It was a tight situation where he needed to be extra careful, and he wanted to know why his partner wouldn't leave him there for free. So he walked right in her office before she even got to the door. The moment she flipped the light on, a sweet, innocent smile spread across her face as she watched him run, telling everyone he was always coming back. He sat there in silence while she tried to tell him to stop cutting his jokes on the clock. She tries to make things worse by telling him she loves him again and that he made a terrible mistake. But our boy simply stares blankly at her with genuine sadness on his face because he doesn't know how to feel anything else than disappointment. Before he got back to the table, she wasn't even holding her purse. Instead, she crashed right onto it with a mighty clunk and screamed, "I missed him." Our little boy stopped his cold stare and asked gently, "Do you know who your actual boyfriend is?" As she tried to find another place on the team, she wisely told the girl to hide all their photos online while she worked for a new spot. The door swung open and the man walked out, leaving her feeling completely embarrassed. As I stepped out on the street, my cool exterior suddenly felt like a frozen mask. I knew instantly that my digital avatar was getting too confident to fit right inside my actual self. Before even getting ready to process that character, chaos explodes right over the block. The street was filled with screaming as a crazed man dragged his scared daughter into the dark alley, tossing a knife up to the wind while shouting about honor and how he could finally catch a woman. A group of strangers stood frozen in shock while a twisted, creepy figure prepared to unleash a final blow on them. Before the steel falls, we rush past the monster and slam his face against the wall in pure speed. The attacker stumbled back into pure panic while his own child calmly told him, "The match is officially done," before demanding to know exactly who's messing around. Our boy squeezes hard against the attacker, who lets out a loud scream that sounds as if he were about to snap like a twig before we can even react. The hero realized he never had to activate that broken cheat code just to win this fight. His physical power was already a lethal weapon. Deciding he'd held hands long enough, he threw the thug like trash and turned to the trembling victim to see if she was okay. The woman stares up with watery tears and a deep, fiery blush, stammering that she doesn't even know how to thank him properly. The MC narrows his eyes, instantly recognizing this very face from earlier in the story, and asks if she has something to say to him before she denies it, claiming he just happens to look remarkably like someone she knows. That tense split second ends with the attacker delivering a suicidal blow from behind, while the woman yells in panic before the hero effortlessly sidesteps the clumsy attack. He knocks over a man in a single fluid motion and freezes him completely. She froze mid-sentence and stared up at him with pure wonder in her eyes. Dust settled perfectly before the police rolled up around us like a protective bandage as they hastily dragged our boy toward the station. She jumps forward, shouting fiercely to defend herself while she insists she filed the very first report on him. But the cops won't move. They argue that a fight broke out and the suspect is now under arrest for assault. The cop pointed emphatically at the man's actual knife. Yet the detectives stayed behind their usual red ropes to ask why someone would risk walking into trouble when it all went wrong. It's a matter of simple fact. He really doesn't have the time to get stuck in that big, loud bureaucracy. The woman drops her ace card because she decides enough is enough. Kim Hannah introduces herself as a reporter for CK Broadcasting and firmly tells everyone to stop harassing an innocent hero before they want their incompetence blasted all over the primetime news. The officers instantly realize they have stepped on a massive PR landmine, while surrounding whispers loudly recognize that reporter from that viral clip where she saved a kid from monster. Hannah smiled as she walked toward the police station, realizing that everyone else had already folded in on themselves. She thanked the protagonist for handling the drama with such grace before handing over her business card to take her with them. In a loud battle over the world's biggest mystery, she steps up to cover the Dimension Warriors fighting against that scary monster invading our reality. The MC laughs internally and sees that everyone calls the characters interdimensional superheroes, but they haven't admitted their game actually tore into real life. The woman tries to talk him down, but just as she finishes speaking, a giant figure slides out of nowhere and blocks her path forever. He's about to be kicked out of the car when her friends suddenly pull up next to him with a loud yelp, causing a chaotic scene where she claws into his arm, completely ignoring all the mood and loudly arguing over whether he's actually hurt at all. The boy refuses to wait for permission before making a move, shoving the woman away firmly so she can't see him, pretending never to exist at all while secretly punching her own number straight into hers without asking first. The ex stood frozen in a state of sheer humiliation as the reporter handed him his phone. Hannah loved how Park Jin-young called herself nice, so she offered him a free cup of coffee the following morning when he was finally free, and he happily accepted before parting ways. She gasps as she stares at the man who was once her best friend before becoming a complete failure, her jaw tight with rage and fury at losing it all. She runs toward the exit as her smartphone explodes because her cheerful boss dropped a huge pile of work so hard he was flying to a meeting just now. She has a private one-on-one with Gracia, the man who truly saved America. Hannah stares at the empty sky and wonders why her global superstar isn't waiting for a meeting with her when her coworker drops an explosive bomb. The superhero refused to agree to anything until Hannah asked her name by her full name, flying all the way over the ocean just for this tiny talk. Meanwhile, in another world where digital nightmares are real, the Snake Princess is breathing heavily after destroying a swarm of Watchers. But she has one enemy, standing right there ready to give her her classic villain ultimatum before they're caught off guard. The Lord slammed his hand down hard on the table as he shouted, "She needs to get back to her majesty. And make sure you hand that tiny boy to me so nothing gets forgotten." The silence in the room is deafening as Isabella screams that she's done with this man. Just a simple word, and he'll be dead before anyone can even blink. Meanwhile, armed guards raise their swords to kill him, but a massive beam of blue magic slashes through the air, stopping them all instantly. A glowing screen flickers open and screams into existence, causing the world to darken and blind everyone instantly before the hero rushes past it, as if running toward an unkillable monster. The man's eyes snapped open wide, staring at a swirling storm of confusion that had only been hiding deep in his mind for so long. As Isabella gasped for air, her eyes widened in shock when he revealed that the star was indeed his. The sudden scream of heads echoes right behind the character taking the new upgrade, and he nods perfectly in response before turning to face it. He stares at Isabella as she keeps up the promise of guarding his weak body before he can save himself. A powerful, blinding aura erupted right next to his face. The system announced a brand new exclusive skill called Star Inheritor and Star Slash. In less than 42 seconds of pure destruction, he absolutely vaporized an entire chunk of the enemy army, standing in the middle of the glowing wreckage and boldly declaring that their liberation began now, telling Isabella to rejoice. She stood there staring at him with burning anticipation, totally hypnotized by the sheer magnitude of the saint's raw power. He turned to her, finally offering the last chance to stay connected with her family before leaving forever. She flashes a bright smile and insists she's staying right next to him. The moment the lights blared, Isabella felt a sudden burst of joy as her curse broke under the weight of the star's embrace. The chaos ended instantly as they slammed into the warp, dropping hard into the heart of Arcana, a golden metropolis known for its endless riches and terrifying rules. Don't knock if your wallet is empty. It's a rule we all know and love. The city was so glittering and loud that the MC saw through it instantly. Gold wasn't just shiny. It was their only real currency, which made them feel desperate for something deeper than money themselves. Isabella proudly pulled out a pouch brimming with 300 gold, feeling like she could easily cover up a whole night of food and a nice hotel stay. Confidently examining her stash, she stared at the protagonist with pure pity, getting defensive about the amount. She argued back that in the desert, 300 gold bought 10 slaves, which is literally 10 times what the protagonist was worth when they first met. The main character dives into a life of terrible poverty by smashing through an entire financial bubble, telling his friends how hard it is to survive in these desolate slums compared to their wealthy dreams. Isabella freezes mid-sentence as panic kicks in, wondering if she can just sneak away and get the food without anyone noticing. He just points back at them and wonders why they're stressed when literally every coin in the pocket says yes to everything around him. She's completely overwhelmed while desperately looking through the dirt to see if that mysterious bag of money really exists. She lets out a sharp laugh and smirks at him, knowing she won't feel that special luck for the rest of the day because his secret gift has already started to work. Welcome to Arcana, that neon-lit gold city where the sky never sleeps because everyone wants their shiny wallet in hand. Oh, look at that magnificent building. It's a huge Hudson casino right here, where our little boy and Isabella are gathered together. The hero rushes past the guard's massive frame, but he demands a huge payment for his time in exchange for safety. When her tail slammed against the ground, the snake princess whispered with furious urgency, "We've bought our new clothes, and now we're down to only a handful of precious 10,000 gold." We wave her away so she wouldn't get caught, but that little stash of coins still felt like a disaster in the world of upgrades. The street behind them began to curse loudly as the beggar raised his hands and slammed a heavy, old key onto the glass table. A tear of the fairy queen shatters the armor that protects her, yet she remains completely unharmed after being destroyed by the enemy. Her guard stares at her with an entirely different, defiant look that flips her from victim to untouchable. He instantly bows and leads them home, sending everyone else back to their seats. Inside the room, Isabella shouted for someone to tell her exactly what happened. He shrugs casually for the sanctuary reward that's worth at least 1,000,000 gold. "I promise, and you know exactly what he's doing when he strikes those tables." No hesitation at all. He jumped up and swung the broom across the kitchen table, making a loud clatter as he swept away all the dust and crumbs on his dirty hands. The crowd was thrown into a frenzy as his tiny chip pile burst apart like a bomb, turning what once seemed just $250 into an unimaginable $1.4 million. He quietly thanked his golden cheat code as the dealer shook his boot like he was holding a piece of candy. When Isabella scrambled back against the dusty walls, a roar of panic erupted from inside her head. She screamed about being loaded, only for her son to gently shut it all up instead. A party ends suddenly when a manager stands up and says, "This money belongs to me," which bans him forever. The catch was that every single sheep had copied his own bets, so the entire property was drying up at once. The little boy decided to walk around, though he knew a few words had to be said first. The manager grumbled, "No way," as the MC flashed a confident grin and shouted to himself, "You're just going to need that meeting for your next big deal." Cut to the VIP penthouse, where someone scans an item using a level 8 observer skill. That guy's tears are his only weapon against the Fairy Queen's knights, so he sends an entire raid party to finish off every enemy in the game. The manager handed a message to the boss, Mr. Hudson, but when he saw his son's face, the man actually snorted and ordered a cup of tea. He stared at Hudson and felt his heart drop when he realized the little boy was so chubby that none of him could possibly farm him on his own level. Playing it cool, the rich collector claims he's just a casual fan of shiny rocks and offers $2 million. Isabella screams inside her head while our boy barely moves his eyes, and suddenly the boss shoves in a fake smile before starting to argue that the material is too messy for work. Oh my goodness, our boy leans back so hard he might snap out of it just for a second, maybe even to me, but he needs this air right now. He takes a sip from his cup and instantly turns the entire Hudson family into ashes, completely dismantling their poker faces. He jumps out of his seat and sees that the city council might be holding a secret meeting about an impossible level, 10 cap. So he quickly checks his notes before the fire starts. It would be a huge leap for this kind of person to reach that exact kind of power on their own. A businessman desperately wants political recognition because his fiancée's rich family is so far above him that she freezes in cold stone, paralyzed by a strange fear of their own greatness. Serenity, that brave and beautiful Snow White knight, remembers when she was thrown off by a demon king who tried to save Wilhelm. Back then, Pangaea didn't have much else to show him. He only got the locket with a picture of his secret love, Hudson. That was the first time our boy knew those fake NPCs were actually people from his real life, and as he ran out of breath trying to get away from them, the giant casino boss demanded a specific piece of classified intel before he died. I felt like I was hearing the sound of something big in my own ears, but instead, a boy with sharp teeth tried to tell me secrets while I watched the stars shift around him. He handed me the magic talisman for free, and when I refused, he said, "But Hudson has to spill his real story." The game feels like an escalating nightmare. Massive risks are everywhere, forcing NPCs to execute anyone who defies their character. Yet even sharing your backstory feels like surrendering your own life. But then a desperate lover steps in, willing to risk it all, and suddenly Hudson pulls out his matching locket and caves into the abyss. Serenity stepped onto the battlefield where the 8 heroes gathered as they began their epic journey through the darkened demon realm, ready to face whatever came next. When that little boy cut a branch off and Wilhelm took the whole thing on himself. It sounds like the boss has completely gone insane right now. The 8 heroes marched out together, but their fight turned into a brutal struggle over who was right when everyone got mad at each other, until only Gracia stood firm. The screen goes dark, and the hero Gracia suddenly shatters to reality, standing tall in the real world while his beloved phone remains stuck on his wrist. He's peeking through the window to read Kim Hannah's report about that guy who made a monster out of nothing. A man stepping forward from his office asks why he's flying to Korea during such a crisis rather than just calling the reporter back. Gracia slammed the door and stared blankly at that fuzzy picture of our heroine. He has to confirm it on his own because Hudson feels it right there in his gut. This guy is exactly the friend he's been waiting for all along, and back when we were kids hunting down more bombs, our boy was completely stunned by what the Snow White Knight said about the 8 heroes. It was like his mind was flipping gears because the 8 heroes were just waiting for him to do something alone. Hudson gently nudged Wilhelm to leave the room, knowing for sure that history would tell the tragic story of a coordinated attack involving 8 rival generals who simply couldn't contain their own endless squabbles. Oh no, my son is completely lost in his world. He's physically spinning around while hard-pressed on a huge, pricey steak he bought years ago, trying not to let history slip through his eyes and get eaten by the meat itself. He looks like a zombie at a fancy dinner with a reporter. Her thousand-why stare makes him snap out of it, and food's great, but it was just a rough night inside. Hudson asked for the tea on his backstory, which he thought was a mistake, then got a full emotional breakdown while lore dumped until sunrise. The boy rolled up 10 minutes late to this thank you lunch because he was stuck online dealing with all that drama. She thinks buying him a 5-star meal is the only way to save her from that crazy psycho stalker. He tries acting cool, as if it was civic duty, but she smiles and insists stepping up like that is rare. Suddenly, the wholesome vibes die instantly when her eyes lock onto a table right behind him. She whispers, "The girl staring daggers at his back isn't the same chick who jumped you yesterday." His boy screams internally and spots a blue-haired gym bro with massive try-hard energy who seems to be binge-watching alpha male podcasts for fun. The reporter reads the room quietly, whispering if it's too awkward or if they need to switch tables. He doesn't even bother turning around, telling her that past is dead and buried before casually slicing into his steak. Unbothered, but blue hair isn't letting it slide. Feeling the need to flex, he stomps over to their table, desperate for attention. He gets right in our boy's face, aggressively, accusing him of stalking his precious girlfriend all the way to the restaurant. The MC just started throwing his trash at us, and calling him a shameful loser who's not letting go of his old days, while the ex loved the show and smirked from behind, and the bully leaned in to intimidate our guy. He drops a deadly threat while pretending he's just eating again, but the reporter is furious because no one ever actually lets these guys talk about their own lives like that. She kicks the table to get everyone's attention and shouts who gave him such a free ride. The bully yells how much rent a girlfriend worth by the hour until the guy even thinks about paying for her own life, but then he just tosses cash at her chest and offers her to go somewhere else where she can finally be herself. A woman shrieks as she realizes the man staring at her is actually a psychopath, but his bright red hair suddenly turns black and looks like it's burning on her skin. He snaps out of panic, raises his hand in an aggressive gesture, and aims to punch back. Without even taking the time to get up from his chair, our little boy casually pushed his leg straight out. The bully trips over a perfectly timed foot and dives into the floor like a cat who finds food. MC sighed and said, "Playtime's over," while pointing out that throwing hands earlier wasn't even the best play. As the bully scrambled quickly to regain his balance, everyone was left staring in silence. Before our boy could even get up to stand, he slammed his sneaker firmly onto the guy's balding head and started grinding his face all over the cold restaurant floor, shouting commands that he would never listen to again. He lets out a breath that sounds like a sigh of defeat as his frozen body crumbles under the sheer pressure of what the bully can't beat anymore. A girl screams at her boyfriend, demanding he get up so she doesn't embarrass herself all over again. The bully was completely humiliated by his own words and suddenly began to wail, demanding a fight, while our boy instantly shut it down. The bully snapped under that pressure and launched an all-out attack. A glowing artifact appears and summons a dazzling suit of armor. Chaos erupts as he walks into the dining room. Customers scream as they pull out phones to record the crazy guy in cosplay armor, only to find he's a real dimensional warrior going on an insane epic journey. An armored bully grabs his throat and slams him onto the floor with massive power, while the reporter screams for her name before realizing it wasn't over. Even though he was knocked down so violently, our boy is lying perfectly still, looking utterly bored. He paused mid-sentence, looking puzzled as he realized his new boss wasn't just a normal player. He was secretly a genius who thinks people are tough for no reason at all. Ding! The system chimed, revealing that even the weakest opponent could hold their own against a man with hidden strength and a master plan. Wow, it's embarrassing. The guy is a level 4 spearman. For context, Pangea's power scale makes leveling up incredibly difficult, especially when dealing with multiple talents. Our boy sitting on base stats of 36 across the board instantly realizes the bully has a dirty little secret he hasn't even told us yet. The clown was such a coward, so he spent hours hiding deep in the bush to survive, relying entirely on dumb luck until he finally tried to log off before anyone could even say hello. He turned out to be a terrible liar who never returned to his real life at all. The ex was too slow to let the boy know how to lower his guard, so he grabbed the bully's hand and dragged him away as soon as police arrived, screaming that the guys couldn't be right if we didn't get out of there first. The meathead then puffed up his chest loudly, shouting at the MC to keep watching himself from behind while the boy ran back toward the school. He strutted around like he had just grabbed a 1v5. The reporter is losing it, demanding they dial 911 right now, while our guy simply brushes past the dust to tell her to relax. The story winds up in his hand as she argues that throwing the first slap counts, but a tremor on the floor cuts off the debate before anyone can finish it. Suddenly, a huge earthquake shakes the basement, making the MC freeze in place as his face turns white with horror. Suddenly, a massive worm breaks out from the ceiling and crushes them right on their skulls. The reporter lets out a loud scream before she can run away, and the MC grabs her face right then and there. He scans those bottom-tier trash mobs that just scavenge corpses, knowing he'll get no trouble unless he messes with them. Unless you pull a Leroy Jenkins, that blue-haired simpleton makes it his time to flex before she gets hurt. The bully bursts into the room and yells, "I'm gonna get through all of you like I do a monster." The crowd went wild, feeding his massive ego. The MC stares at the reporter dead in the eye and shrugs, saying, "I've got enough room between us, sir." Just as the bully decides to dance his way across, a thick crimson fog rushes over the street and blinds everyone else at once. The bully suddenly loses his grip and lets out a shaky, coughing breath as the room goes quiet. A deep whisper filled the dark and whispered that she was being killed by someone else. A bright red warning window bursts onto the screen as our hero, the elite boss monster, the Mamba, steps into the chat and sees nothing but chaos. Too bad your little boy can't help get stuck in that endless red haze while the squad tries to protect his safe space. The boss sneers with a grin that makes his own shadow feel like a ghost in the dark, instantly thinking he's controlling the blue-haired meathead before he even sees him. The bully dropped his weapon and looked around in shock as the world spun out of control. Tripping hard on the worm's toxic blood made him believe that a terrified civilian coughing in the smoke was actually a demon. He pulls back the heavy blade as a scream echoes, totally controlled by the boss. Before anyone realizes the danger, that moment when the MC makes the final decision to step out of hiding and face the truth turns what could have been just another job into a deadly crime scene. A blur of motion cuts through the air when the hero slices the bully's arm clean off effortlessly. As the guy slams down the door and screams in pain, we quietly watch him note that his secret identity wasn't hurt. The evil boss smiles as he stares at the ghostly figure who keeps trying to escape with that delicious snack. A fierce boss points a claw at an MC, standing perfectly still amidst red mist, while a reporter quietly whispers his name to search for her salvation. The screen cuts to a chaotic moment where the character, now inside a giant snake, laughs at the absurdity of trading blows while being shielded by zero visibility fog that lets him equip his high-tier gear effortlessly, all because he hasn't seen anyone on their TikTok feed. No matter how hard he tries to learn from that dripping detail, it won't make him a proper snake eater any more than it would if he never remembered his boss's full move menu at all. He didn't know why a man with zero defense would have to dodge every single thing as if it were written in his own mind. The MC tries a quick jab. The Mamba instantly deflected and laughed about how weak his punch actually is. We watched our boy stare blankly at the clock, counting each second until he realized his partner was about to strike with a deadly bite. You know, when the only thing left in a fight is a single drop of rain, that's how much he cares about the outcome. The Mamba laughs as his dodging attacks pile up to smash through whatever armor anyone threw at him. He quickly forgets why it matters and decides to just hide his weapon instead. Right between his eyes, he lets go and holds back a moment before pulling out the ultimate fairy card, the most rare thing in existence, and then immediately puts on those epic tier Hermes boots, which require some extraordinary power just to move. With the tiers cutting back to 20%, the new rules fit him perfectly, boosting his agility straight up and unlocking that quick move instantly. He doesn't stop there. He instantly puts on Michaela's armor and helmet before the system even finishes loading her up. The charge goes off like a clap for a minor error, making sure the Celestial Dragon bonus is active as soon as his boots glow with power, so he can shoot a quick, sheepish mental "my bad" Hudson. The guy actually never planned to smash through those big, shiny items after they were all settled down for a bit, though he swore he'd get better revenge on them soon and slam the door shut tight. He rockets forward with abandon as if nothing could stop him. The giant creature fell into a deep pit of darkness, completely blind and utterly unable to speak again as it let out a long, silent growl from the bottom of its huge tail. A hard whip swings and jolts his little guy off guard, but instead of getting hurt, he turns it into a punch, officially causing the big Celestial Dragon armor to boost his defenses before the Mamba finally spots him and scolds him as if he were just a trash rat hiding tricks. His eyes widen as he sees the boss's last move and immediately starts getting ready to face that final punch. You know when that beast finally takes a hit? Then the game stops being a wild ride and becomes a real fight where you have to tank everything until death. The monster began his roar and unleashed a wave of dark fog that would instantly turn the boy into ash. The screen crackled with a sudden warning right here. It screamed that a beautiful dragon-like knight was perfectly aligned with a fast warrior, making everything shine brighter together. Suddenly, that powerful storm of wind hits the bistro and instantly wipes out the entire cloud of poison held by Mamba. The monster goes totally flabbergasted, staring in disbelief as its ultimate attack gets countered by a pocket tornado. The narrator breaks down the Mamba's fatal glitch, noting that its AI is scripted to cycle 4 moves: a dodge blood spray, a needle attack, and finally the poison nuke. The boss spins and burns out, locking in that one dangerous second before the cycle restarts with double damage. Our boy sees it as his last chance to kill it, while the MC charges him away and the frozen monster begins screaming at him to stop. Our brave boy stands at a cliff edge and calmly tells the monster how many times he promised to protect him before he even saw it. He pulls out a sharp sword and slashes straight down into its skull, slicing right between those 2 eyes so the creature can't even breathe anymore. The dust finally settles on the high-stakes game floor when the elite boss makes his fatal move and drops into the pit. A cheerful victory screen erupts above him, declaring a perfect solo kill with 100% contribution. But he is left holding onto a broken shard of the golden rule as he absorbs it for 10 minutes of active use before the cooldown begins. Meanwhile, the mysterious collapse of Pangaea's empire slips away at alarming rates until just when the red mist finally clears, revealing terrified customers peeking out from their hiding spots. The reporter scans the room to find the armored figure, then screams after the man she saved yesterday. The boy looks away from the hero's spotlight with a tight, aggressive grin, then quickly pushes aside his invisible cloak to vanish into thin air where the shadows finally move. A few moments later, he casually jogged back up, looking fresh in his civilian clothes. The man who was supposed to be a calm bystander ended up playing a worried one because everyone had been thrown into chaos together. The reporter whispered about how good the job was, but then a sudden rush of bad luck made sure her detective's eyes caught on that single mistake. A smear of fresh monster blood clings to the fingertips as he stares at it. His friend tries to chuckle at a random mob that must have splashed him, while the reporter pinches her eyes with disdain as he points out his clothes look brand new despite his hands being soiled and his demeanor remaining unnervingly calm during the chaotic fight. We saw how quickly the cover was falling apart as our boy flipped the script at once. The reporter stared at him with eyes wide open, unable to believe that the man in front of them was actually so terrified that they had blacked out, leaning forward until their bodies nearly collapsed into the cowardly wimp act. The story suddenly drops into a dark, unspoken mood where everything feels heavier and colder than before. It was days after the first battle, and now that the second, wild raid has shaken everyone's resolve, the whole town is trembling like a leaf in a hurricane. The dimensional fighters are shouting a warning to everyone to go home before they hear the news roast the government, which decides to ignore that dangerous threat and focus on saving the economy instead. In that grand hall of fancy boardrooms, people actually gathered to steal power for themselves. The air was thick with perfume and a smell that felt exactly like corrupt bribes. The player feels a deep sense of betrayal when they realize their hero and the Alliance are left behind as the government abandons them completely. Park Tae-ho steps boldly into the light as a new dawn breaks over the battlefield, ready to face whatever comes next. She whispers to the screen that her favorite girl is the armored tank named Randolph, and it all starts with a shaky video of our boy doing solo music for the Chief Mamba. A skeptical skeptic dismisses a level 5 noob as incapable of wielding epic tier Hermes boots, only for the chaos to escalate when theorizing a god-level artifact sparks an even bigger fight between Phantom and another high-profile player who vanished instantly. Meanwhile, shadowy figure Randolph appears from thin air after his own victim went missing, and Tae-ho orders his squad to secure that armored juggernaut no matter what price tag it costs in battle. The team desperately needs the firepower for a looming command rift before they can take their turn. But inside that digital nightmare, Hudson spirals into a total mental breakdown while bathed in shadow. The loaded casino mogul is practically foaming at the mouth and demanding to know if our hero actually incinerated the loot, or any loot at all, including the legendary tear of the Fairy Queen. Our buddy leans back comfortably and tosses the ball into a casual kiss. Hudson shakes his head and lets out a barky noise as if screaming for freedom because that shiny object belongs to him by right, while our MC effortlessly flips the script with elite-level gaslighting, calmly explaining to Hudson how he promised to secure victory without actually giving the trinket over. On the inside, our protagonist's heart was hammering like bullets as he tried to admit he panicked enough to destroy all million gold treasure for Snake in real life instead. His ironclad poker face claimed he had destroyed that gem just to cure Hudson of his weak mindset. Meanwhile, Hudson was on the verge of a full-blown ugly cry, wailing about broken trust and betrayal. Our boy beams with a wicked grin and promises a show so violent Hudson won't have to choose to believe it. Then the trio bursts into the most vile location imaginable, the sludge-filled sewers of Arcana, where Hudson's feet tremble behind the Snake Princess. Absolutely furious that they're trampling through this digital filth, our lead explains exactly which strategy they need to drop a fast travel anchor point for. With his epic tier teleport tome, they can bypass the grind because mapping the entire sprawling city would take weeks of pure sprinting. Speedrunning this sewer dungeon is just the only viable shortcut in the world right now. Hudson screams in rage as he realizes that trying to hit this zone with 3 stacks is literally going to make it all a suicide mission, given how demanding the boss actually wants a coordinated team of top-tier elites to do it for them. It was right then that a monstrous, bony mutant rat crashed straight down from the ceiling, which instantly sent a deafening alarm blaring through the room. The Hudson feels like he's ready to dive deep into battle, yet our hero barely lifts his sword before the fight gets too intense. At 10 o'clock, he simply called out to the target with a casual, relaxed tone. Isabella doesn't hesitate at all. She unleashes a blinding barrage of steel designed to vaporize any beast before even its eyes can move, proving that her Snake Princess's fighting spirit completely outshatters the game's physics engine. He turns toward the cold casino tycoon and beams with an enormous smile, telling him to stop worrying about things and instead accept that when he promises anything, it means everything is done. The atmosphere in the restaurant suddenly cracks into two very serious men in tailored suits, both utterly defeated while their sidekick scans every CCTV frame for proof that leads nowhere. The guy in charge sighs and says that ghostly lack of evidence is enough to drive a detective insane. The rookie jumped into action by ordering a direct confrontation with the blue-haired bully, while the captain immediately stepped in to tell him he had completely ruined all his marble collection after losing it to a bad accident. Chasing after him was a genuine waste of time, as the rookie suggested storming CK, broadcasting, and grilling Kim Hannah instead. The captain slammed the door shut right away and told you never to touch the bear again. He reminded Gracia that he knew she was the top-ranked athlete in the world, and she went straight to Korea for a one-on-one chat with this very reporter. Watching Gracia act so strangely and overly polite toward her friend, the author clearly treats her as if she were royalty. At the precinct, the captain stares blankly as he wonders if that American star had even felt something for the reporter out of nowhere. It doesn't matter why he decides. They just need to ghost her completely deep down. He suspects this mysterious Randolph guy is actually the Phantom, but if Gracia ends up in the mix, one wrong move and their entire alliance will get deleted instantly. Meanwhile, in the shady part of the city, things are getting real messy. That psycho player stands right in front of him, shaking out his bloody hand while he cries out desperately about how Gracia banned PvP so everyone can prepare for those monster waves. But the killer is utterly indifferent to every single thing going on around him. He effortlessly sliced the guy's throat and laughed while mocking him as he went into Gracia for hell's cries. Ding! Suddenly, a notification popped up telling everyone that players have massed together to crush the leaderboards and finally get into the secret auction. He smiles a bit too hard while he checks the insane scores on the main quest leaderboard. And he's 100% certain that Randolph is actually just a smurf pretending to be Phantom. He knew how Phantom kept moving at a blur, so he guessed the man was going to sprint straight for the next big quest. He grips his blade tight and vows to lead the quest line into a battle where he will kill him on his own terms. The MC steps back into chaos and finds himself in a completely new place while his team watches him with wide eyes. He's getting ready to laugh when he sees those shiny coins and realizes, hey, let's get this sewer rat out of there before they're gone. He grabbed a wild mutant monster rat and loaded it with super toxic liquid that instantly made everyone turn into the Cronenberg nightmare. You think your little boy has the strength of a dragon? No, you're wrong. He actually feeds those cursed souls to the big dragon that's now a beast of immense power, so he can grow stronger and evolve even more. Snapping back into focus, he pauses and asks Hudson if he has finally tucked all those loose threads into his own shoes while standing in the city. The casino boss confirmed he wiped out his whole gambling empire right after the manager told him exactly how to do it. Hudson can't help but worry when his job is ending. Yet locking down his marriage to Serenity feels like an indispensable luxury, even as corporate vultures keep circling around him. Inside his head, Hudson is completely absorbed in the MC's holy sane act and has no choice but to watch Isabella solo a raid boss while obsessed with the protagonist's 200 IQ shot. He stands tall and utterly prepared for this bag of things he doesn't want to lose. The little boy's mind was racing with excitement as he bounced the ATM door open and saw his own secure lock. Hudson has a very serious money problem that he's going to solve soon. The Hudson driver was in a rush to ask for the next stop. He lets go where it's best he can, and suddenly there are just a few simple woods to choose from as they get ready to leave. Hudson squinted and looked unimpressed, wondering if that simple forest was actually one of the true legendary spots. He checks his watch as he steps into the rustling forest ahead, where a huge, completely dead tree stands blocking the only way out of the towering building behind them. The main character tells us that spirit trees should be like portals leading to a magical world, yet they have already closed their doors and left them behind. He stirs his eyes as he scans through the woods, realizing that for all those years, nothing has truly grown or repopulate this place. The moment he decided no time was available for hesitation, the MC suddenly turned violent. He drew his blade and sliced through the dying wood. The Hudson starts freaking out and yells furiously because he thinks the saint is hurting his own only chance at life. The electric shockwave rips through the forest and locks onto Hudson's ceiling like a sudden, deadly strike. She danced through the room, not by walking, but by sneezing, sending every bullet of her attack flying in a perfect line. He stepped out of the level 9 Hydra boss and gave her reflexes a shot, though his anger was bright as fire. He roasted the fresh veggies while he was still so kind about letting them walk through his grassy yard. Suddenly, the bushes began to rustle as 57 high-level forest guards burst into view, spinning around to circle the team while Isabella calculated survival odds. You're mentally rehearsing how to grab a key person out of the way while your team leaves for another shift when things go wrong again. The rugged hero stood tall and cool like a frozen statue, gently pushing back a confused group of bystanders while his druid watched from the shadows. He had finally admitted that he was the one who actually carried out the illegal tree-cutting project. He smoothly noted that the big boss would never show up to a fight without forcing the encounter to happen first. The forest master called him straight-up delusional and got ready to order the execution. The tall, standing boy reaches out to ask his friend, "Are you sure your whole kingdom will turn to ash before it dies?" He flashed a cocky grin and proposed the highest-stakes deal before anyone could stop him. The Dryad's secret code opens her ancient tower and lets us see a young boy ready to help the dying forest get its final breath of life. The Dryad grumbled, claiming her tower was a secret VIP gate reserved only for those who knew what to do, completely ignoring how easily a casual traveler might just get lost in the wild and drown out the roar of the mountains. Our boy was trying to figure out why he'd never met his destiny again. Usually, getting into this tower takes a whole laundry list of broken talents, endless fetch quests, and miracle tier luck just to make it count for anything, but that logic only applies if you're an ordinary NPC. So when the protagonist dropped the nice guy act and forced the Dryad to zip the gate open, the boy knew his fate was finally turning around. He slammed his hand down to unleash a silent, ancient force of nature, and suddenly the dark forest felt so peaceful it was hard to tell which side was right before he stepped into it, promising that no one would ever leave this place behind again. A wild, angry mob of forest guardians is drinking from the earth and screaming that anyone who harms the sacred timber must be burned away like a monster. Suddenly, Isabella snaps into action and maps out every possible escape route, while the High Dryad who had been watching from above jerks her head up to kill the noise right there in the air. He marched straight into the protagonist, his face set with cold contempt as he shouted that ridiculous lie so loudly he made it seem like a real threat. Our boy flashed a winning grin and swore he'd definitely bring those juicy fruits home from those forgotten woods. The druid laughed openly while betting on the humans to fail, jokingly remarking that turning the defeated guy into compost wouldn't be too late after he messed up. He ordered his trio to follow, leading them deep into the decaying grove until they stumbled onto a massive ancient rock named the Spirit's Corpse. The druid warns, "If you pull this stone, you win, but if you fail, you're turning into extra fertilizer for the trees." The system sends out a loud alert while you're back in the forest, but this is only one part of your story. You must survive a massive 30-point honor kill or face an epic PvE fight with the trees. Our boy laughed inside, enjoying how terrifyingly dramatic the game over message was going to be when the druid fired a blast of blinding white light across the whole room. As the sun climbs higher, the world outside begins to fade into a soft haze, leaving Hudson staring wide-eyed through a glass door while his friend helps him navigate the walls of the tower one last time before he can see what's actually inside. The terrified boss stopped in his tracks at the door and tried to explain that this was just a safe room before he could even ask for the entrance to the dangerous dungeon itself. Right on the screen, a cute chibi spirit floats in, glowing like a tiny orb with anime eyes, and suddenly its helmet pops right out of nowhere. The Hudson's owner woke up with a jolt and wondered if anyone would actually buy the goods on the shelves. Our boy shuttles away from poaching to show off his adorable little brother, making everyone laugh as he focuses entirely on that charming image. He felt a gentle pulse of pure energy in his chest, and suddenly the tiny spirit gave him a warm, golden glow to leap onto the ladder. As he climbed, he checked out Hudson and Isabella, wondering if these friends who barely know each other were really someone he'd truly trust with his heart. The boy offers a casual shrug that means something like, "I'm not going to stop," and with that simple gesture, the spirit lets in its full power before suddenly slamming into a huge ball of energy. The team must chase away all the runners, but they can only move alone. She promised she'd get to meet the friends very soon. Hudson collapses completely, and his soul begins to shatter like lightning as the universe tries to snap him apart in a flash of pure light. A ghostly whisper hints that climbing the tower feels like a quiet adventure rather than a race against the clock, letting you forget how fast real life moves while you build something new inside it. With his squad vanished, the system suggested just the basics. Yet our boy stared at a colossal nightmare that looked like it had a face and was trying to slam shut with two gigantic arms. The narrator slowly zooms in on those towering stone spires, letting their secrets breathe out like a gentle sigh. Every climber gets sent into a specific gate based on what element they are made of. Isabella pulled the wind gate open with effortless grace as Hudson was tossed into the water zone just for trials, while Randolph stared helplessly at the confusing interface that kept breaking because he's too good at mastering everything to stop it from going wrong. Suddenly, That giant stone face on the gate peels its eyes open and shakes, realizing he's stacking contradictory vibes like water and fire mixed with light and darkness. Yet it's all held together by the void element. The door scoffs at that basicness, then decides void is too much of a mistake and renames the location to the Gate of Chaos. A huge warning crashes down, and nobody will ever crack that special gate open again. If the turmoil inside consumes him, he's doomed to die forever. Our brave hero doesn't flinch at the thick door and steps right past the darkness to reach the other side of the room. It's like he's running from a 5-year-old nightmare about eating Pangaea every day. He's the most knowledgeable player ever, making sure he knows the brutal rules of this game better than even the developers can. Even though he's still playing the game today, a wild grin spreads across his face while he keeps running in all directions with that insane mystery at his back. He admitted that his surge of adrenaline was exactly what made him so obsessed with this endless nightmare simulation. The chaotic gates are full of new treasures, and he's got a grand plan for grabbing everything on the spot, ready to roll. The script for his main character's opening line crumbles the moment a man with flowing white hair and a black cloak steps in a frame, causing him to vanish instantly, as if nothing ever happened. Wilhelm felt like his heart was skipping a beat at a moment of pure joy. His own master's rank was truly the #1 original character, and he stood right there with that title on his forehead. Before Wilhelm could even figure out what was happening in the dungeon, he unleashed a lethal blow that knocked the hero down instantly. The boy was so good at dodging that he barely missed a hit in this game. As a server god's life bar flashes before his eyes, his mind goes wild as he screams internally and knows with absolute certainty that he must throw hands at the literal entity of the server itself. Sweat drips down his face while he curses loudly at Pangaea, convinced that the developers actually designed this trash level to be mathematically impossible. It took him nearly 5 minutes to dodge another blast before he spotted that big mechanic. The blade clattered loudly against Wilhelm's chest as he swung, not cutting through him like a knife, but dulling the steel and shattering the iron armor before his own hand could stop it. Wilhelm looked out the window as his base skills were suddenly completely too weak for today's game, forcing him to keep a tight hold on himself so he didn't get knocked down. The terrifying worry about getting a single kill fades away as he flips the switch to offense, and a cloud of blue system windows confirms his complete loadout, draping heavy celestial dragon armor over his feet and Hermes boots to trigger the Gale synergy. His giant wings whipped out and caught a stray Wilhelm who was trying to sneak away when he slammed into the wall. The clone tried to vanish by dodging the explosion and throwing shade, wondering if his pursuit of glory was truly over yet. Oh dear, our boy won't waste his breath talking to that NPC. He laughs as he pulls off the cheap bootleg and the fake Wilhelm skull with one hand, letting the other hand shake the rest of the costume away effortlessly. He caught his breath and took a big gulp of the top-tier potion, then felt his mind light up with thanks as he thanked Hudson's bank account for the money that helped him get ready to win inventory. Oh wait, the race couldn't start until we got home from work. In the dark hallway, shadows are stretching out like a giant tentacle and a massive legion of Wilhelm clones explodes from the gloom. His heart dropped as he swallowed hard, thinking with dread that maybe he'd never actually find his way home after all that heavy work and all those healing supplies piled up in the warehouse. A sudden shift turns the fictional studio into the gritty reality of a high-stakes production set. Gracia's legendary player is wrapping up an interview, and the reporter politely thanks him for flying all the way to Korea. Gracia ignores the small talk and pivots straight to business, telling her that now the cameras are cut, so he needs tea on that mysterious man from his article. She leaned in with zero chill, declaring she's the strongest player on Earth and demands every single microscopic detail about her savior before warning her not to skip a beat. Back in the digital meat grinder, our boy looked like he'd gone 10 full rounds on a blender and was suddenly being slaughtered while at least 100 Wilhelm clones burned through his entire potion stash. The air feels thick with panting as the gangsters realize the boss has vanished from the map entirely. No more towers to climb, no loot left behind. That silence in the dark tells them clearly, this isn't just a test, it's the real thing. And for a split second, his eyes locked onto the darkness before the very thing that had haunted him was pulled out of nowhere and crashed through the walls. He stared hard at the battered druid with a grin so wide he almost had to roast himself on the ground for his stupid idea that this was done. A twisted grin tears through the air as the spirit launches a devastating reality bomb. These 100 clones were just a simple guide. The giant gate ahead beckons cheerfully, warning him that thousands of buffed illusions are locked inside, telling him to stop now. Faced with a level rigged to fail, our MC stares down the entity with a face stripped of emotion, leaving behind an empty silence before he pivots and marches straight for the ominous door. Suddenly, the dungeon NPC lets his guard down and scrambles, trying desperately to use a body block so he can escape while he's still on his feet. He's trying to get a ride, but his body is doing too much work. He's already sweating bullets and making ridiculous offers just to turn around instead of getting off the bus. A legendary Stargrade rival was sworn on a blood oath to forge a special contract against one-of-a-kind world-tier gear. Meanwhile, screaming for coordinates meant the exact map of a one-of-a-kind world-tier set, while a third tried to trap him with an S-tier chaos skill, but his pro-gamer brain wasn't flinch. The meta clearing was fully online, and an elemental gate guaranteed a spirit egg of that specific element. As the first player in history to crack the chaos gate, a priceless spirit egg became basically his guaranteed participation trophy. Seeing those spirits hyperventilating to keep their door closed confirms one thing. Whatever they're giving you for bribes is infinitely more broken than the trash they've been offering. They start screaming, warning him that he's making a fatal mistake, and this is where it ends. Before a sea of thousands began slicing through the air and tearing the world in half, the world felt stunned. Finally, our guy stopped, turning sideways to see the whole team scrambling for a last chance at saving their thousands of zombies with no medicine left. He spent hours grinding 1,000,000 copies of the boss before he finally uploaded those hitless frames into his soul to play perfectly without hurting anyone. And now he simply drops the mic thinking everyone will laugh, because logic says leaving a room that gives you loot is bad math, while the spirits quietly confess they actually love this insane human's vibe. We burst through the heavy doors as our little guy prepares to face a formidable boss, only to find himself trapped in an endless, silent cosmos filled with drifting stars and golden specks that never seem to stop moving. A cheerful system notification pops up. Welcome to the